Yeah, g'day everyone. My name's Dale Cosgrave, and really welcome to the second instalment of the Wellness Wheel. That was a title that was given to us by Jasmine Dillon, and I think it sits quite well with me and the team that have been responsible for producing this video series. So this is the second instalment. I did a video a couple of weeks ago just to sort of more introduce myself and touch on some, I guess, sort of wellness interventions, tools that people can use to help you navigate the uncertainty, the unparalleled change that's going on in our lives now. And it's quite apt. I'm actually recording, well, the second instalment, if you like, on day one of the stage 4 lockdown in Melbourne, where I'm based. Just by introduction, and my business as such is I run a coaching and counselling practice where I coach individuals, but also I run men's support groups around wellbeing, and my coaching and counselling is all focused on wellbeing. So I help people navigate uncertainty more effectively. I help people sort of find purpose in their lives by way of utilising various tools, even in very difficult and, let's say, adverse conditions that perhaps some of us could view now as. And I suppose really, and I talked about this in the first video, I talked a little bit about my story and my, let's say, adverse circumstances 10.5 years ago in recovering from addiction. And really where I am today is a result of working a program of recovery in my life, which fundamentally, if I look at recovery, and what that's meant is effectively having well-being really at the base or foundational to everything that I do. So what I'm hoping to do today is just to impart, some of that knowledge, to you in terms of some of those wellness interventions, and to hopefully, something that you can get out of yourself that you can apply in your daily life, particularly, during the circumstances that we're going through at the moment. So in the first webinar, some of the key, let's say, tools again or interventions that I touched on, and I only really just touched on them in the first meeting, in the first video. Sleep was one, connection to self and others was another key one that I've used in my life. Fellowship as part of that. Exercise, body movement, being of service, nutrition, and mindfulness and meditation. I mean, one could actually put that into the area of connection. So what I wanted to talk about a little bit today was on particularly on the mindfulness side. Now, we obviously hear lots of things about mindfulness at the moment. It is, now sort of from an evidence perspective seen as very much a counselling intervention. It's taken about 15 years to get there, but it's certainly embedded now into a lot of practices. So really what I wanted to do, and I will touch on some of the mindfulness practices that I utilise and impart on my clients for them to utilise, but I also wanted to provide some context from my own experience around mindfulness. I'm always a big context fan. When people can say do something and I'm going to go, well, what does it mean? Why? So for me, it's really important to kind of understand what it is and why it's of benefit. And that's what I want to touch on in today's session. Now, what I'm going to do is just take you back a year ago in terms of my story. And I like to weave my story into, as I said, explaining why and what to do effectively, just so it provides, again, a little bit of context in terms of how I've experienced mindfulness and it operating effectively in my life as a solution. So going back a year ago, I was, I'd sort of left a relationship, or let's say that the partner left me in a very sudden way, which was quite traumatic. And that led to, but I'd always planned to set up my own venture probably, 6-12 months before that breakup. But it really, that sort of combination of events of, I think we had a new CEO at the time and we had a lot of cultural change and it just didn't fit me anymore. And that happened just prior to the relationship breakup. Then it really brought home to me that, I needed a break, first of all, and a reset. And that felt like the right time to leave the role. I was in a corporate coaching role at the time, just in the Melbourne CBD. So what I did is, after that relationship breakup, I had a lot of, let's say, sort of agitation and thinking, because it was a very sudden breakup and I didn't have a lot of recourse for communication. So I needed to do something about that. And it was almost like my second recovery. I talked about, as I said, the addiction recovery in the first meeting. And this was kind of almost my, I don't know about a rock bottom, but it certainly hit home and I needed to do something about it. And the beauty of it is that I'd had a recovery foundation to work with to understand that I could actually get through pretty much any adverse situation that was thrown at me. So I always knew there was a solution and I kind of knew what to do based on my prior experience. So a silent meditation came up for me. I'd done one probably I think it was about 5 years ago, and I did it at, I think it was Woorolloc, just down in Hills, or near Hillsville, for those people in Victoria. And I'd done one 5 years ago and it was really a huge benefit to me. So that was a 10-day silent meditation. But what I found was that I needed to kind of get away from my usual haunts. I needed a complete kind of new place to go to where there was no kind of reference, I guess, to partner and previous relationships. So I had a friend of mine who was at a particular silent meditation in Thailand. She'd actually been over there for 2 months, and I'd connected with her probably about 3 months prior to the breakup. So, sorry, not been that long. Must have been about a couple of months before, or 1 month before the breakup. And anyway, she suggested that I come over. It was a meditation retreat. It was run by monks, effectively, Thai monks and Buddhist monks. And so I went over there. It was, as I said, it was this quite surreal experience. We had a monk's quarters. They were meditating. I think they meditate from around sort of 3 or 4 in the morning up to about sort of 11 o'clock at night. Not a lot of sleep. The international students, obviously, which I was one, meditated in a separate area, although we ate with the women monks that were there, along with the international and national students. And went about going about sort of the various meditation practices which they taught us over there. I'm not going to go into the exact meditation postures that we did, but there were 3 of them. And we effectively, a lot of it was, I guess there was some sort of focused movement. There was a walking meditation. There was also an initial posture that we did before we started the walking meditation. And then there was a sitting meditation with your eyes closed. Most of it was focused on breath work. So it was just really looking at the sensation, or feeling the sensation of belly rising and belly falling, breathing, belly rising, belly falling. And then it progressed to some, I guess, further sort of focused touch points on your body, which you arrive there with awareness. The thing I wanted to take out of that particular experience and communicate to you today was more around the mindfulness, though. We had a session with a teacher each day, so that's where we could actually talk. But what he suggested we do in between the sessions is to be mindful, effectively. So what I'm getting at is that you can work this into your day, because I know a lot of people don't have a lot of time to meditate. And basically all it was just acknowledging what is. So whether it was feelings of uncertainty, seeing a bird, thinking about lunch, or whatever it was just literally acknowledging what is. Now, the benefit of what I see is the context behind that, and why they do that is you'll notice as you start doing that everything passes. And you probably would have heard that if you tapped in or do any meditation or mindfulness work. But there's something about just understanding the impermanency of thinking, feeling, that everything does pass. It's very temporary. It might come back. But the fact is, in terms of a practice, just to acknowledge when it comes up, let it be, and then just come back to breathing. And by just simply doing that practice, so, maybe it's walking along the street or walking the dogs in the park, see a tree, feeling uncertain, feeling guilty, feeling shameful, whatever it is, just try and bring that into your day, into a practice in your daily, in your daily life when you can, when you remember it. Obviously, if you forget, that's fine, but just try and come back to that practice. And there's something around when you do that, you don't have as much attachment on things. You do see things as temporary. And by doing that, there's less cling on life, right? You allow life to happen a lot more easily, as opposed to clinging to people, clinging to money, clinging to whatever it is your attachment. By doing that daily practice, little by little, as I said, those attachments become more detached from the attachments. And as I said, you're able to navigate and let life happen a lot easier without worrying about it so much. So I know this might sound a little bit simplistic, but hopefully that's provided you a little bit of context around the mindfulness practices that I've done. And I'm just hoping it's been a benefit today, particularly in this sort of stage 4. And just to sort of finish, and again, we'll continue the series, but in terms of the next session. But again, just really wanted to reach out and just say, be well. Everything will pass. As difficult as this time is, just understand that, you're breathing, the sun's coming up, it's beautiful outside today. Let's say God's given us some tremendous gifts today in terms of the environment. Stay close to your friends and family. Reach out if you need help. And as I said, start to incorporate some of that mindfulness into your life. So have a great day and nice to see you again. Bye.